The secret place. One day 9 years ago, my brother, who had gone fishing, came home with a pale face. When I asked him about it, he said, "I was scared. Don't go to Gama. There are scary things there." He kept repeating, "Don't go to toadstools." I gave him a cup of warm tea and asked him about it with his mother. My brother went fishing in the Bay of Rias, where he always goes fishing during the season, from this morning. Gama is the name of the land where the fallen Haika warriors carved out salt fields for their daily livelihood, and there are many such places in this region. We called it a secret place, though I will not go into details so as not to identify the place. Surrounded by evergreen forests, the surface of the bay is as calm as a mirror and looks like a lake. One of these small bays in the Rias-type bay was the place where my family used to go. It's a place my dead father, brother, and myself have been going to since we were little, two Poles if we knew each other. If you know someone before you have to give up fishing there. There is a small stone pile about the size of 2 tatami mats. To get to it, you have to go down a 30-meter-long animal trail from the narrow, winding road above. My father, who was afraid that the place would be known because of its small size, parked the car at a little distance and commuted to the place. About 10 years ago, even though we were the only ones who commuted to this place, we started to park our car farther away, fearing that the place would be discovered. When we were young, our father found this place, and even after his death, it remained a secret. However, it was not so much that we could often catch fish in that place. However, the water was flat at a depth of 4 meters at 20 meters. The bottom was sandy, which suited our fishing style, and in spring and summer, the cormorants were noisy, and we could not see them from anywhere except for a closed pearl sorting station across the street, where fishermen hung their nets on rare occasions. Therefore, no one comes to this place even during GW and Bon vacations. Watching the sea urchins floating on the mirror-like surface of the lake is a soothing experience in itself. Anyway, my brother went out there. While he was eating lunch, he saw a scary monster. When I asked him what the monster was, he did not answer. Anyway, he was so horrified by what he saw that he jumped up the cliff, got into his car, and drove back to his house. I was surprised to hear that. Did he leave the tamales behind? I left it, my brother said. I don't care what the tamo is made of. I had left the tamawak, which my father had bent from a fir tree, and it was a memento of his passing. I'll go get it. I'm going to get it, he told his mother and brother. I heard their voices behind me saying, "Don't do that." But I couldn't give up the tamo. It was a late autumn evening, the sun was setting quickly, and it was already dark outside. Already 6 o'clock? I was a little surprised at the darkness and was about to start my car when I saw a neighbor's mother and daughter standing in front of my car. I asked her, "Excuse me, could you please step aside?" But she just looked back at me and stood there in a blank stare, refusing to move. As I waited in the car, frustrated, I began to calm down a little. It was now 6 a.m. 2 hours by car. We would arrive at the toad at 8 o'clock. In the darkness, I could picture myself walking down the animal trail. I got a little scared. I thought to myself, I'm not going to do it. No one knows me there. We can go there tomorrow when it gets light, I thought. At that moment, the owner of the house, who was a mother and daughter, took them away, vowing to us. Now I think that these two people saved my life. The next day, I had no time for myself. I had work to do, so I left home in the dark at 4 o'clock. I arrived at the toad before 6 o'clock. I descended the animal trail in the morning light. It had been many years since I had last been fishing. I was a little worried about the cobia, but in this gentle light, those thoughts disappeared. Sure enough, there was a set of fishing gear. But where was the taman? The tamo was also thrown out behind the fishing line. Relieved, I thought I had to retrieve my fishing gear quickly. The sound of crows made me think of a cormorant. The cooler and the bucket with dango material were first, then the scallion, the rod, and the tamman, and 2 round trips were made to get them. I tried to hold the cooler. It wouldn't lift. What is in the cooler? I opened the cooler. A terrible smell hits my nose. Inside is some kind of fish. There is a cooler full of minced sardines. The smell of carrion, as if it had been left for days, assaulted my eyes and nose. What the hell are you doing? Anger at my brother was taking over my mind. But then I asked myself, is this what my brother did? Why are the sardines minced? Why is it rotten? But I was less afraid if I had anger toward my brother dominating my mind. Subconsciously, I thought so. What do we do? Give up. I'll give up the cooler. Let's just take the reel and the tomahawk. No, just the tomahawk. He grabbed the tomahawk and was about to return when he found a dead body hanging from a tabunoki tree behind him. A middle-aged man with his back to me. Beige jacket. His feet were on the ground. But there was no doubt that he was dead, because the neck is horribly stretched. When I was going to the fishing spot, I didn't notice it because I was worried about the tamman and it was behind a tree. I was a little relieved to see it. My brother's koiman was this. It was just a dead body hanging from the neck. He was fishing and didn't notice it, but at lunchtime he looked behind him and became delirious. Probably something like that. Thinking this, I became a little calm and heavy-hearted as I could not take my eyes off the corpse. It's a busy time of the year. I have to take today off work. I don't know when they'll call the police and ask me what's going on, and when they'll let me go. I'm just going to ignore the situation. But leaving the tools. Someone might have seen my car. It's a pain in the ass, but it's the least we can do. I was afraid to turn my back on the corpse, so I took the ladle and walked up the road, looking back. There was a police station. There was a village about a minute's drive away, and there was a police station there. But there was no policeman there. A piece of paper and a ballpoint pen tucked into a binder said, "If you need anything, please write it down here." A phone number to call in case of emergency. It was another hassle. When I left the police station, I saw an old man tending to his garden in a house across the street. "What do you want? You're always gone," the old man said. "I found a dead man," he said. "Hanged. Under the stairs of the pump." When the old man told him where the body was, he said he would check it out and rode his bicycle to the toadstools. The old man told him to call the police, so he did. After a while, 2 police officers arrived. I told him what happened and took him to the place. But there was no body there. He said, "Oh, it was right here. That's definitely strange." The 2 policemen immediately looked at me with a suspicious look on their faces. I was sure I had seen it, but what a surprise. I was sure I saw it, but I was stuck in a terrible situation. I was thinking, I saw it, when the old man appeared. "It was there," he said. "But you didn't." "But it's here. A hanging corpse." The old man interrupted us. According to the old man, there was indeed a dead body. Beige jacket. Black pants. Feet on the ground. When he was returning to the station on his bicycle, he passed a police car and came back again, but there was no body. The 4 men were in different positions, but they all had one thing in common: they were all involved in some kind of trouble. The police had not only 1, but 2 people testifying that there was a body. However, I look around and don't see anything that looks like it. I want to end this situation as soon as possible. However, if I were to bend the rules of discourse, I would look suspicious. If I told them that my grandfather had seen it too, it would be hard for them to retract. As a result, the 2 police officers and a few others, including backup, searched the area. I wondered why I was there, but I didn't want to wait any longer. In the end, the matter was settled as a misunderstanding, and I was released before noon. The old man did a surprisingly good job, and I was sure I had seen it. I'm the president of the local government. I could not believe myself that I had seen a dead body. I could no longer believe it myself that I had seen a dead body. I just felt a chill. Anyway, the police returned, and the two of them said to themselves it was there, Nina-chan. Oh. The old man went home. I felt oh no. When I got there, I had enough time to put away my fishing gear. But I didn't want to be there, so I stayed on the upper road. I was afraid to go to that place alone. But I should have left it there. The time was noon. The sun is at its highest. The noon siren goes off. No cooler. I'll bring my rod and reel. The sun shining through the trees is beautiful. There was no wind and the surface of the lake was like a mirror. I stand on the fishing line. I look around in fear. I want to get away from here as soon as possible. I just want my rod. That's when I first noticed that the line had sunk to the surface. There was no float. I stirred up the rod and spun the reel. Then I saw that I was caught by a root. No, it moved a little when I stirred up the rod. It was heavy as if I had caught an octopus, but I was able to pull it in. The float comes out. The thing on the hook appears. It was the head of a man who had been in the fish net and was about to be torn off. There was no distinction between male and female. Bones were visible in the cut end of the head, which had been roughly cut. A block broken in half was attached to the bottom of the net with a harpoon. The face. When I recognized the face of the crab crawling around as a neck, I found myself hunched over. I let go of the rod as if I had touched something hot. The neck was submerged in the water. Then I heard a strange cry that I had never heard before. However, I might have heard that cry long before. I might have just thought it was a bird call. I looked up and saw a woman in a white one-piece dress on the pier at the pearl sorting station. The woman had her hands over her ears and was screaming as loud as she could. I don't know why, but I was sure she was out of this world. She turned her back to me, shook her short hair, and screamed. Why did I run up the cliff? I ran up the cliff with my back turned. Anyway, as I was climbing up the cliff, I heard something jump into the water behind me. Ona jumps into the ocean and comes over here. From there, my memory becomes fuzzy. I wonder how I did not have an accident. He spent some time at a coffee shop near his home to calm down a bit. When I returned home, I heard that my brother had gone bowling with his friends. I remember that my anger at my brother's carefree attitude was rising. A few years later, my brother contracted an incurable disease and died. He died after spending his father's retirement money and his mother's savings on medical treatment. About a month before he died, I asked my brother about that time. What did you see? What do you mean? The neck. You said you caught it in a net. A head in a net. No, I was putting the lid on the Dungeness bucket, and I heard a noise inside the bucket. I was so surprised that I lifted up my back and gently opened the lid, and found a head inside. A woman's head. She was eating dango. Covered in chrysalis powder. You won't believe me because you're crazy. But it's true. My brother, who sometimes said strange things, perhaps because of the medicine or the blood clots, said to himself in a self-deprecating tone, "You can't believe it. You can't believe it, can you?" No, I saw it too. I saw something strange, too, I said, and my brother looked at me with a serious expression on his face. This was the first and last time I talked about this with my brother. I no longer fish myself. Or rather, I am afraid to go south of my home. The dreams I have at night are always about that time. How many times have I repeated it? But when I told my mother about the time when my brother came home shivering after his funeral, she did not remember it at all. And I was no longer sure if that thing was true. I decided to go see that old man with great courage on my own. But I was afraid to pass by that place, so I took the long way around. He was there. And he remembered me. I knew that what had happened had happened. I started to cry when I realized that it had happened. I asked him, "Have you been there since then?" I asked him. "No, I don't like that place. It's a strange place. You shouldn't go there either." His face suddenly clouded over. A memorable place that I went to many times with my father. I climbed the tabunoki tree where the body was found many times, and when I was in elementary school, I was allowed to fish for small items with a knob pole. I feel sad that it has become a horrible place. I have not told anyone about this. But it is difficult to keep it in my mind. So I still want to tell someone about it. This is the end of this story. Thank you for listening to the end.